In a world where Africans have lost their roots, it has become of vital importance to document our ways. In an effort to reverse the brainwashing of the past, where we were made to believe our ways are demonic, we are pressed to create dignified and respectful platforms to unpack our spiritual ways.
All right. I'm so glad there's already people ready for the session. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining the session. Just as a reminder of where we are, we've been following the SAMRO story for a while now and seeing a chaotic era of management. And on my part, I feel as if the CEO doesn't have the maturity or the leadership qualities to be in the position and is just messing it up for everybody. And as a result, people are starting to call for her resignation because we need to talk about David Alexander some more, guys. We don't talk about David Alexander enough. We need to talk about all the things that happened under her watch. We don't talk about these things. And so we're going to continue having the session because if we don't fix the situation for our generation, we can't be exploited in the past and then our children also get exploited. So these conversations are very important. But I always have Tsepo who has a wealth of knowledge about the SAMRO. Oh, also, you know what's so interesting? Also, Tsepo, I don't know if you've noticed this. It shows that SAMRO leadership have no ideas. If you've noticed in the past year, every single idea they came up with came from our platform. And now they're hijacking the MOI thing. Yes, now they're hijacking the MOI thing, acting like it was a great idea. Where the thing with integrity, if INDABA was a real leader, she would have said, this is a great thing you're doing. Namsa, how can we support you? And then it was that simple. But the part where now she wants to manipulate processes, it just looks untrustworthy. And I think we need to think about, is Annabelle there for artists or who is she there for? And I also we need to unpack the fact that she's from a theater background. So she's literally a fish out of water. Literally. She has, us on this platform are more knowledgeable about the industry than her. So, yeah. So let me give you the mic.
Mamia Lochani Mawandre asibulisa wonke umuntu kule platform mamia siyabonga umoya siyawuzwa siyavuma. Mamia, thanks very much for the invite. Just as a disclaimer, I couldn't make it last week Friday because of technical issues, as you would know, but committed to be here this week with all things happening. And I think you would not have introduced the matter appropriately. Look, I think where we are in SAMRO, Mamia, is that, you know, we are a generation of musicians who stands on shoulders of giants. The surname Mashian in the music industry is not new. You know, the surname Mazwai in the music industry is not news. And many other surnames on which shoulders and protection must always be on the alert. We've got to protect what has already been set up as a foundation from which we must build. So I want to make this preamble because I do think that the generation today, our failure to be able to be relevant in this generation and be able to take up the responsibility to protect will actually come back to haunt us in few years to come. I mean, Mina now, Mamia, we are aging, to be honest. We are entering our 50s now. And the issue is that we have been talking forever, you know, and it does seem to me that the people we've been talking to or that we continue to talk to don't necessarily understand the fact that we've got a bigger mission, some of us, to protect and preserve, and make sure that no one comes and play marbles in a scheme of things that has got to protect a generation of well-known, well-respected, world over surnames, and names of people to which today we claim relevance. Mamiya SAMRO, for me, if I were to define it, it is quite an interesting experience, if you like. For one reason or the other, my actual, full participation in SAMRO was on the 10th of July last year, and it has been months now. And when I say full participation, it means that I was joining online previously, but was not really participating. But
yes,
I'll tell you why I went to that meeting. I think at the center of it was the agenda that we needed to deal with, which amongst others was exposing some of the rot that has been happening within some. We all know today about the Kunduzi report. We all know about the scandals of Dubai. And interesting enough is that there seems to be no appetite for people to be able to call out this corruption. This is my view, and a very strong view I'm sharing, and I share it everywhere. And this appetite, Mamiya, has got to be, at some point, be owned by some of us or some amongst us who want to ensure that where there has been wrongdoing, there is correction, right? We need to correct where the wrongdoing is. And fundamentally, correction, Mamiya, can only be centered around the legal prescripts and the laws that define what good governance is. What I mean by that is I cannot come with my own prescripts, Mamiya, of Creatives Congress movement, and I say this is what is SAMRO's governance. This is how it should look and stuff. But we are guided and we are subjected to the laws that we subscribe to or we subject our organizations to. And I want to speak about SAMRO. So SAMRO was established by members of SAMRO, most of whom were composers. But by nature and natural evolution, publishers in their own business, they actually publish the works of composers. And necessarily they are not composers themselves, but logic will tell you that the collections are indeed for the composers in an agreement of benefit sharing with the publisher. So in the main, we can all agree or find each other in agreement that at the center of SAMRO's success are the composers and authors, because without them, I'm not sure who publishers will be publishing on, whose
exactly. Publishers have forgotten that they're administrators.
Right. So we've got to be logical about these things. And when SAMRO was formed, intentionally it was formed as a non-profit company. Of course, previously it was established under the the Copyright Act, because we're dealing with copyright issues. But to date, we know that SAMRO is registered as a non-profit company, and therefore it's subjected to the Companies Act. In fact, the consequence of having a memorandum of incorporation is because the Companies Act calls on all companies that get registered under this act to have a memorandum of incorporation, meaning that it is a founding document that must then guide the organization. Now, having participated in a number of meetings, we've been speaking about this and that. My view is this, Mami. I do think that people who advise SAMRO or who are in SAMRO do not necessarily understand that the Companies Act makes a clear distinction between how non-profit companies must be administered vis-a-vis the private companies, right? And of course, public companies, So there is strict regulation around how do you administer any registration that you choose as an organization, right? So we've chosen to be a non-profit company. And if you go to the Companies Act, it's very clear which sections of the Companies Act do not affect non-profit companies. So what we have, unfortunately, in SAMRO is that you have a situation where people do not read, either they don't read properly or they don't want to read, or they are just arrogant about what the law prescribes. People are applying the sections of the Companies Act that do not apply to non-profit companies. If the non-profit company says to you, the founding members of the non-profit company are its shareholders, it's there. I don't want to go to sections, but if we have to share this information, we will, because we have been sharing the information previous. If the non-profit company, the company's non-profit company is said to be the shareholders being its founders, why are we having an argument about who owns SAMRO? Why are we having an argument about who are the shareholders of SAMRO? But let me go deeper and say, it then prescribes how the board must be established of all the companies, whether private, non-profit, or public. It prescribes how the process must unfold. And I can tell you now, without a shadow of conflict, of confusion, that the manner in which SAMRO has been administered, we've lost all grounds to argue that we're a non-profit company. We've presented ourselves as a private company whose board members believe that they've got no authority to be directed by the shareholders, who believe that they can actually choose how this organization that is member-based must be administered without guidance and involvement of its shareholders. Now, that's a very serious issue, because legally then you are actually contravening the laws that govern you. And I'll make a simple example, Mami. In our journey trying to find convergence between the board and members, we've written a lot of memorandums. And in those memorandums, we reflect and we quote the law, what the law says about convening board meetings, about the role of the board during AGMs, the role of the board during EGMs, and so forth and so forth. Subsequent to us having to guide and provide input as shareholders to the board, we've consistently been given misinformation and misdirection, purely because there's no connection between understanding that non-profit companies must operate different from private companies. That's where the crux of the problem of SAMRO is. So an instance now that we're dealing with is where the MOI is very clear that you cannot have, it actually says section 16.2, and I'm making reference to the latest notice of a composer member who has apparently, either resigned or whatever the case. I don't have full detail. But the MOI is clear. And I want to make this direct connection. By the way, as I said, the MOI exists because there is the company law. So where the MOI finds some gaps, you need to refer to the company's law. I think let's agree on that. Now, the MOI says the composition of the board must have minimum 3 composer author members and maximum of 4. That's what it says. This is the law we're dealing with. We're not dealing with what we want, how we like things to be. Now you have a situation in SAMRO where the law has been contravened, where you've got now, if indeed the notice is true, where you've got one composer member, one, and the law says you must have a minimum of 3. Now, I don't know who does not understand that simple logic. That minimum means at the least you must have 3. So can we then argue that the board in its current form and composition has contravened the law? We can, because it further goes and says that independent members, you have a minimum of 1 and a maximum of 3. And we know that that's what is happening. It goes on to say, publishers, you can have a minimum of 3 and a maximum of 4, which is what we know. So in the current form, you have a board that has actually contravened its own MOI. And it's not the first time. I mean, there's a lot of times where we have, engaged with SAMRO to say, let's find each other in order to build SAMRO and to move ahead, all of us being one, and all of us having one convergent point of us trying to build a SAMRO. But it's clear that it does not seem that it will happen very soon. I will, Mamia, raise this matter because I think it's important. It's important, despite the fact that it involves myself. So, contrary to popular belief out there, there was a process that was opened, which you are mentioning. They are trying to navigate and manage the ideas that we come up with as members. In fact, we've got the responsibility, Mamia, as shareholders, to bring these ideas to the board. So there shouldn't be confusion there. And if they run with the ideas that we put to them, the one thing that becomes a problem is when now shareholders are ignored and are no longer involved in their own processes, or rather processes are designed to marginalize the very members in one way or the other, right? So you have a situation where we submit, like everyone else, we opt into the process of the MOI review tax code. And I'm raising this because I think it's important for the record. We submit, and just because SAMRO, for one reason or the other, chooses to look at the name under publisher, they look at Tsepo Mashiane and say, no, Tsepo Mashiane is not a full member and is not a publisher. But the problem with that, and we challenged them, the problem with that was you don't look at the representative of a publishing company. You look at the publishing company because the publishing company is your member, not who represents it. And we've got this experience with current members who sit in the board who are from Sony and who are from all the other publishing companies, big ones. Those people, they represent the publishing companies. They don't represent themselves. But what SAMRO does is that it chooses to say, no, but Tsepo is not published. And therefore, Tsepo does not qualify. And this unfortunately happens under the publishers opting in process, where they're supposed to be looking for their membership, not for individuals that are representing their members. So they say, no, automatically, no, Tsepo does not qualify. So we challenge this thing, Mami. So I'm trying to show you the extent to which even their own way of trying to navigate this sense of division and sense of marginalization, we are able to challenge them to the point where they accept their wrong. So we challenge them, we say, no, but your own system was asking for the name of a representative, and it was asking for the name of the publishing company and the BR number of the public company, of the publishing company. So you were supposed to, under publishers, you were supposed to look at whether or not the publishing company is your member or not the representative. Because then Tsepo is not coming in as a composer with his own BR number. No, he's coming under a publishing company. And we challenge them up to a point where they realize, in fact, there's an apology from SAMRO on this matter, which is why subsequently you found that Tami Music was then reintegrated into the list of those that had opted in within the timeframes, by the way, contrary to popular belief, within the timeframes, and they agreed, because we've got evidence, they've agreed that they will then run the voting of the publishing companies or publishers. So I'm showing you the extent to which Mamiya, despite the fact that everyone will follow the process to the ladder that has been designed by them, there will always be some intention to divide the intention, and this does not build anyone. It does not build anyone, because integrity, Mamiya, cannot be compromised, and nobody can, choose or rather teach anyone to have a level of integrity, high level of integrity, especially where we say we are leaders, we are leading people. A high level of being conscious about disrespecting other people, being conscious about misleading people who don't know without facts. You're misleading the whole membership of SAMRO about things you don't know. And you pretend that you know. And this happens on both sides.
And how do you not know as an entire CEO?
And this happens on both sides. It happens on both sides, Mamiya, I must say. It happens within SAMRO, it happens within membership. And this is a very, very bad.
But the SAMRO has got a responsibility to know and teach the members.
Absolutely.
We cannot have a leader that doesn't know how the law works and protects criminals. We cannot have a leader like that, guys. They're not for us.
No, absolutely. I think, like I'm saying, one of the things that we must actually break the chain, Mamiya, is how do we get everyone to understand that we are a non-profit company. We're not a private company. And until we get that right, I'm telling you, we will not solve these things, because you then have people coming from their own backgrounds thinking we're going to run and administer a private company which has got this and that. They take monies of selling a parking, they put it into a private company which is a subsidiary of the NPC. And then when you seek a report on the monies, on how those monies were used for selling the assets of SAMRO, they say, no, we can't report to you because the private company does not have membership. That's what we're dealing with.
What you are saying to me is leadership of SAMRO have found a way to funnel funds from
That's what
SAMRO.
It means. That's what it means. Because if you follow the story of 2023, and it's in their records, by the way, you will know that the adjacent parking lot was sold in 2023 for almost 18 million rands. But interesting enough is that 18 million rands went to what is called the SAMRO House Pty Ltd, whose shareholders or directors are members of the same board. But what is worse is that those members of this Pty Ltd remain there despite the fact that they are no longer in the board. One of the very members who is in this private company is a current member of the board, Ryan Hill, together with Sipho Tole and all others. It's there, the evidence is there. We've raised this thing in a meeting of the AGM. Now, when we said to them, where is this office running of this Pty Ltd? Who is employed there? And what are the records? Where are the books of this Pty? They said no.
Why are we not opening a case, guys? Why are we not opening a case?
They said to us, this Pty Ltd does not have members, and therefore it is not obliged to report to members. That's what we were told, Mami.
But it can sell the SAMRO assets and benefit from the SAMRO assets.
Yes, it's in black and white.
Still,
it's got the record. It's in black and white. The response is in black and white. Let's take this thing further. We have a situation where members ask a question. These members of the board who keeps on disappearing in the board, what are the fundamental issues there? Say, no, people resign. And of course, you can't stop people from resigning, Mami. But that is untrue, because the board would from time to time have its own circles of removing each other. And people get removed from the board. Now we know, because we have the record, we have the minutes. People were removed from the board, yet the board finds it appropriate to take out a annual report that is audited, and they say people resign. I mean, that thing is beyond any comprehension of anyone who understands and respects accountability, lawfulness, and of course, has got high level of integrity. So we've got to be able, Mamia, to raise these issues. And let's agree to disagree.
The private company need to be charged, huh?
We've got to know what's going on in there, Mami. Yes, the law allows it, that an NPC can have investment company. But the argument that therefore that private company cannot report to the members of the NPC is totally awkward. It's out of this way. It's something that is totally,
it doesn't
my
report
mind.
to the NPC. It doesn't report to us, but it takes our money.
Mamia, I'm saying to you, the private company, as we speak, is led by Mr. Nicholas Maweni, is led by Ryan.
Why is he still there? Didn't the members kick him out?
That's the point. And he was appointed during the time when he was a board chairperson of the NPC. So I'm saying we've got to have these discussions, and we've got to be honest, and frank, if we really, really need to build. And there's no way that we can take sides about something that is fundamentally wrong and does not actually give authority to those that authority is belonging to. We can't do that. I don't care who says what. Let's disagree on the basis that people have got their own way of doing things, breaking the law, but we've got to push back if that's what people have committed themselves to consistently break the law and pretend nothing is fine. But let me leave it there, Mamia, because I think, as I'm saying, until we get it right, until board members understand that they are administering a non-profit company, not a private company, not a public company, we will make headway. But until then, I can tell you the scuffle goes on. The scuffle goes on.
It's deep. For me, the deepest thing is that there's a management that doesn't understand this. And what it speaks to, and we talked about this briefly, because you mentioned how young they were in such high positions. And what it speaks to is the privileged kids that went to English schools are now being prioritized, and they think that their English is actually wealth. And what is happening here is showing that your privilege got you there, but you're actually not managing. And also what I'm picking up is that there's a thing that I'm very familiar with privileged kids. I know them very, very well. Some of them are my relatives. I know privileged kids and how they move. Another thing that privileged kids do, who've never had to work and always just get put in, when it's time to hold them accountable, they create a lot of drama. Then they do this, they do that. It would have been so simple for the CEO to just reach out. When we say to her, we want to talk, she doesn't want to talk. So already it's like, how do we trust you? Are you really what you say you are? Like, for me, I've just been thinking, yo, SAFA, the English, the privilege, SAFA, because our systems are going to crash because of good English and lack of content. The management of SAMRO has proven that they have zero ideas. They get their ideas from here. And can we give them more ideas, please? Can they work on the medical aid issue, please? The funeral planner stuff, hospital plans. Can we give them more ideas, because they actually don't? Let me give the mic to other children. Great townships and rural creatives, Unjani. We would prefer your video on, to be honest. It just looks more professional. Great township and rural creatives, Ukona.
Also,
Nkona. So let's have your thoughts on this whole situation.
Yeah. Shapunjani Tsepo, Shapunjani Tebza.
Oi.
Yes, yes.
Vula le video yakho sikubone babone ukuthi uhandsome kanjani.
Yazi ngizamile mani ukuyivula yathi kumele bangi-ede ngapho ngonakho.
Alright, sure.
Yeah.
I think like kufanele kuzobonakala.
Thank you, guys. It makes it look so much better. It makes it so much, then the audience can see us.
Yes. Thank you so much, and thank you to be with the legends who've been in this struggle, fighting for these issues of royalties and artists. And Tina, as township and rural creatives, especially so many musicians who are clueless, and it's painful. Yet they are always told to follow the producer, to follow the procedure, be a SAMRO member. You know, people are buying side. And people, the information doesn't reach people. And this is where the divide and rule comes. Because if the majority of our people, they are not well informed, they don't have knowledge, then we're having serious issues in this country. Because the system take advantage of people that they don't have knowledge.
Yes.
So it is very important that while we're embarking in fighting these ills in these institutions, we need to make sure we have programs that educate our people. Because tomorrow, disrupt, who will be there? The knowledge must remain. Do we have system and measures that says Abantu they have, because there might be another superstar that can rise in any township or rural by exploit because of our knowledge. We have seen with our brothers and sisters, the reason why we are bleeding is because our people have been exploited for years. And now what they do in these institutions, but these pilot CEOs, chairperson, so that they can control them. Because it's difficult if who doesn't even feel pain for other black people, let alone in the layout you are following the company protocol. But our people are really struggling and they need this. It shows the level of how much are they being controlled behind. Now, I appreciate that we are beating the dog until the master speaks. But also, we need to be cautious also among ourselves. Also, I always emphasize the issue of unity, the issue of sharing information as courtesy right, the issue of building ourselves so that we can have one goal in achieving one thing. Because the problem is, my worry now is, we might be appointing the next problem. Are we vetting the people that we are vowing, we are voting for? Are these people going to do anything or deliver anything different from what is happening now? So these are the things that also we need to look on. These are the things that we need. But I'm saying people on the ground are suffering. There's artists that are great on the ground, and you can see this one is going to be a rising star tomorrow. But it's knowledgeless. They are not following. They are not participating in anything. They are not in this WhatsApp group where things are happening. There's nothing. So obviously the future will be dented again. The future will face the very same problems again, because it's minority of us that are fighting with this knowledge. So sine beef nabo Annabelle. It's personal. You know, yes, it is personal, but we are fighting for position more than the rights that we are fighting for. So while we are doing all these things, I think those are the small elements that we need to check. And I'm pleading with the leadership with it. Also, let's invest in programs that will educate our people, because if our people are educated, the reason why Tina sees because the knowledge is cover up. By the time she has late, but Thank you so much.
Thank you. Guys, can I just bring in Lee because she keeps having network issues, so I want to catch her while she's able to be on.
Okay.
Hi, Lee Unjani. Unmute yourself, madam. You need to unmute.
Hi, can you hear
Hi.
me?
Yes, Unjani.
Hi, can you hear me? Okay. Hi, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
To unmute my mic, is it unmute? Okay. Hi guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Or with Tatu, yes.
No, I don't. Are you able to hear me? Are you okay?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Yeah,
Yes.
sorry, I have not had the conversation, so yeah. Yeah. Sorry, do you want me to make input or something?
Yes.
Because at this stage I was just following the conversation and I'll struggle a bit. Okay. Yes. So I don't no, I think I don't have opinion at this stage. I just wanted because I think we're all still in shock that Sepo is no longer part of the situation. But and I think that one of the biggest problems with us is lack of leadership. I think that's too much internal challenges, and we need to find a way to work around those internal challenges first. You know, to find a platform where we can get along without just jumping ship. I don't know the reason why Tsepo is no longer with with us, and I cannot have opinion about that. But for me, I would just be cautious because I have nothing personal against the CEO of SAMRO. I don't know her, but from where I'm standing, there is that leadership of Miss Annabella and Rhoda. Now, I saw Rhoda on here earlier, you know. But we need to be honest about it. We're coming from the paid costs and going into Caesar and Sanro. I'm sorry, you know, the leadership of these guys, leadership of these guys for me represent chaos. They've had every opportunity and there's nothing different that they are doing. You know, so I'll really be cautious if I was Tsepo, in whom I'm aligning myself with, although there are challenges amongst us, and we need to be very honest. I've worked with these guys before. I had the greatest respect for them, but their leadership, they leave no legacy. You know, now Mashiane, when she came on to pay costs, she inherited that chaos. They start nothing for me. They start nothing. They take over from other people and they create chaos. That I'm very sorry. That is that for me. So in the current situation, if you look at all the people who are actually supporting Miss Annabella, they are the very same people who have that legacy of chaos wherever they go because they are not properly informed. They're not informed at all. You find that they lack leadership. Anybody can get up and start an organization, but when you listen to the arguments, you realize shortcomings in the people that they are not informed enough to have made such a decision. And if they perhaps were informed enough, they would have made a different decision. But often their actions or their inactions come from the fact that they are not informed. Mine in this whole SAMRO thing is that, first of all, by law, there is no board. And in my view, the others United have tried too hard to please the other party when they are in these meetings. You know, they try to double down on their stance to be accommodating, and I think we must give them credit for that. And Sepo can perhaps say, because he was in that meetings, that they often come with a point in the meetings, and after the meetings, it's like they get strong-armed or steamrolled into deviating from that point that they initially came in here with. Our understanding of why they went into that meeting with SAMRO was to establish an interim board, not MIO review task team. Somewhere along the line, the Artists United, at that time, I think Sepo was still part of them. They then allow these people to steamroll them into now there's MI review task team. They cannot be board which make decision, because by law, that board in itself has ceased to exist. That is according to their own MOI. When you look at the cessation of the board, right? 2, interim chairperson office has ceased to exist last year already. So, and we're looking at the facts according to them, because our understanding that the interim chairperson he has acknowledged, he's already acknowledged that he has his term of office has expired, and he asked these guys, give me a chance until next year, you know. And they're all of them, I can say, they were trying probably to prove that they are cooperating, and so they allow it. And now 3, there can be no interim chairperson, because in the first place, that board could not have appointed him as interim chairperson, because the people who were no longer on the board, who have reinstated themselves, and I'm talking about their own MOI, you know, regardless of the fact that that MOI is read in conjunction with the Companies Act, you start on your own governing document. The MOI is their governing document, right? And it is read in conjunction with the Companies Act, but they are not only governed by either party, according to them themselves. That the board members who were reinstated to actually form a board now, if you look at the Fundutsi report, those board members, like the guy from Sony, I think, he was
right there when we get
he was
juicy.
part of the board who made a decision or resolution to appoint the forensic investigation to report Fundutsi, to appoint Fundutsi. Now, if you look at the report, the report states clearly that, I think it's Nike, he did not cooperate from the outset. He didn't cooperate with his part of the decision.
Okay, Lee, I think we've lost your network. Debza,
Yeah.
do you want to?
Sure.
Do you want to jump
Yes,
in?
good morning, guys. Good morning, guys. Lee, so early in the morning, why are you having black problems? We can hardly hear you there. You know, you're having black problems. Usually it's black people who have these problems. Mashiane, I didn't hear much of your presentation, but I know you're always spot on, eh? I know we're always spot on. Donna, great.
Guys, imagine if Sepo was the CEO of SAMRO. Do you know how magical that would be?
We wouldn't be having blessings.
Tebza will come and march there and remove me. Litra.
No, we will also hold hold you to account, guys. When the Zionists try to buy you and make you lie to us, we will hold you to account. So come back.
It's not even in my dream, Mania.
No,
we even said it amongst ourselves. We said that if we start talking and congregating amongst ourselves, we will see who the leaders are.
Remember, we gave them in the platform.
Yes, but I want to say something quickly. Because you're going to go on for ages. So I just wanted to say that, but now you've made me lose my train of thought. Ish. Okay, well.
No, it's in Ibambe. Mamela, if Tepo were to be the CEO of SAMRO, we wouldn't be having the black problems.
We wouldn't, because I was saying that when we started seeing the problems at SAMRO, we started gathering amongst ourselves as artists.
Yeah.
And I remember distinctly being said that, guys, let's all talk. We will see the leaders amongst ourselves. We will see who the leaders. And Tepo is one person who has just shot up and made it very clear.
Absolutely.
This is the question. Even Nomi, like people have shown the leadership, we've seen it. And it seems like Tepo knows more than the CEO about company laws.
Yes, and let me start there. And let me start right there. Yes, let me start right there. Mashan, thank you, and thank you, Craig. Thank you, Nzigi. And this is where power lies, in unity. You know, somebody had posted my previous video where I was doing an interview at Newsroom Africa. I was on Owen. In fact, I was hoping to Owen Uzobalangwa, but he said a lot of things in the last podcast. So I thought this would be the continuation. And also, I don't understand, Uti. You need to guide me, but this is a SAMRO update thing. So we need to be focused on the SAMRO update and how do we move forward? How do we move forward? Because of a problem, you have leaders of quality like Umashian, Utepo, who's just shot up, like who's rising when Nzigi. And Utepo came after we had started Artists United. He came after, and he fit in just beautifully like a glove. But you see, you have a problem of individualism rising, and people wanting to take the shine. And I'm telling you, and Ukray said it, unity. And as such people, they put such a lot of damage on the unity that we managed to achieve. I remember in that interview, I was like, wow, I marveled at myself to say, because of Unomfanalo was asking Uti Utabo. You know, I asked a question, I don't remember what he said, but I said, we were able to achieve this because of the unity. This time, we are so unified, like we've never ever been before. Bafiga abantu abafuna ukuthatha shine, and they just want to be out there, outshine everyone, talk a lot of crap most of the time, no consultation. I mean, look at some of the videos that are in circulation. You're trying to mobilize votes for Umashiani to be on there in the task team. And I remember in a close meeting telling them, good guys, let's take advantage of this situation. Remember, there are certain people at SAMRO who may want and are praying, or they even pray for this process to collapse. They want it to collapse. And then you are falling into their hands. And I said, it's about strategy and tactics. You know, back in the ANC, when the ANC was the ANC.
Debza, as somebody who goes to board meetings, we have gotten a lot of information from people who work at SAMRO, and they're miserable with the management. They don't, the workers don't like the CEO, the members don't like the CEO. Like, we're like, how is a person in a position where everybody is like, no, you're not fit for this job?
Yeah, no, but here's the thing, when I'm saying we need to remove, that's another thing I was going to make a very strong point on. We need to remove this thing from personalities. We need to remove this thing from personalities of it. And we're making a big mistake.
Quality thing. It's a CEO, it's a lack of leadership.
Yeah, no,
and
yes,
the leader has a name. It's not like we've given this person so much grace, and people, there's lots of criminal things that have happened under watch, guys.
You are disrupting the disruptor now. Let me finish my point. What I'm saying, And in that interview, being no Gajeni in that interview, and I said it, Ngati, SAMRO struggle doesn't start now. Please, guys, SAMRO struggle began ngabo Nicholas Motsate. Most of you don't even know who that guy is. You've never heard his name. And SAMRO struggle comes a long way. I can't go Tebo, I can't go Mashiane, I can't go Gajeni, I can't go Artists United. Abom Zwake, they were there, and I always give them credit. Uyu Jim Teta is still here today. He was there then, and if I were to put them in the room, and now the Artists United, Abakona Artists United, I would say, my man, Abom Zwake, they did this thing this way, and it never worked. It never worked, and then today, years later, more than 20 years later, you come back, you want to deploy the same strategy. You are kidding yourself. Uzohambo Annabelle, she's gonna go. Uzohamba uhambile umlungu. In fact, you know what's also interesting, and I've always forget to talk about this. You know, during the tenure Gamlungu, Macrosin, nobody stood up against SAMRO. You need to ask yourself that. Why? No one stood up against SAMRO. The problems have always been there. Mark Rosen has never seen one protest from any of you. Why? Why? So ask yourself, it's a question that I want you to ask yourself. Why didn't you stand up against a white man? A white CEO? You never. So that's an answer for another day. But here's the thing, and I'll give you the answer. The question is that the answer is gonna come down the line. But all I'm saying, stop personalizing Lomzabalazo. It's not about Annabelle. It's not about Mpomo Figwe. It's about the system. It's about the system. And you can debate this with me in Zokshire 10 out of 10. It's about the system. We need to change the system. And Ikala Gupi, Uli was talking about the MOI, which is not so important. No, it's very important. Sishawa ngale MOI. MOIA, and up until we change it, you see, and I want you to talk about the latest. Nobody, I didn't hear you. Maybe Typo did mention. Dan Kosi was removed from the board yesterday. Or was it on Wednesday? Dan Kosi was removed. Why? I don't think people can sit in the room and remove a fellow board member when there is no provision in that MOI that allows for them. So, I want us, Buffet, to I always say, we're not in a party here. When people, you want to remove people, they will fight back. And sometimes I get, I was talking to one colleague of mine, I won't mention his name. And when I talk like this, to say, I'm sure there's a provision these people have used, because they know that we are going to ask them, why did you remove Dan Kosi? Because Dan Kosi is a very good member and we need him there. But they will find a reason to have removed him, and it will make sense. And this person said to me, why can't we now udumelana le batho ba? You see me, I'm looking at the war and the strategy and tactics. What are you going to deploy? So, Sisempini, don't fall into the hands of those who are trying to fight with or you are fighting with. Be strategic in your fight. Be strategic. But we are not being strategic. And so, in fact, let me tell you, if we started this war winning it, we were very united. But as we went on and on, we started to want to be individuals, to try to start to treat each other like Ingati Omonyo is more important than the other one. And then this is where it started to crumble and crumble. Fact of the matter is that we are not as united as we were when we started off. It's a fact. And maybe you guys don't want to talk about it. Maybe you don't want to talk. And everybody is important in this revolution. And I kept on saying, even amongst my colleagues, when I was there, when we started Artists United, that nobody can own a revolution. A revolution is a movement. So we need to, guys, now, my plea and appeal to all of you, let's focus. Let's forget about personalities and celebrity mindset. Let's focus. But also, in our focusing, we need to be strategic in our leadership. We need to win even those that don't agree with us. A leader is not the one that only leads those that love him and follow him. You must be able to convince that those that disagree with you to see your point. That is the challenge of leadership. A leader doesn't sell ice cream and be popular, because of populism doesn't work. It didn't. It shows it didn't work in the ANC. It worked for a while, but down the line it will collapse. So populism here, it will collapse. And remember, I'm not a populist like some of you have said. A populist is somebody who says things so that people want to hear. I will say things that most people don't want to hear. In fact, things that irritate even those that work with me to even start to question my loyalty and say, but when I take kuhamba nobani, some say I somersault, I somersault. No, you won't understand me. Mina ufuna into ehambe ngolayini. And then what do I mean by that? I mean that we must adapt in a fight. We must be able to adapt. So before I stop to give others a chance, so we need to rethink this strategy of how we're going to take back SAMRO. Otherwise, Annabelle, she's left with 2 years. Uzohamba, there'll be another CEO. We will find ourselves right where we were all these years. And I don't want to be part of that failure. I'm not going to be part of that failure. So, guys, we have a meeting on the 26th. And that meeting is so important. The December meeting was very also important. And Lee, you are 100% correct. Chair did announce, but he is on rotation. Unfortunately, we didn't even get there to the point of dealing with the leadership of the board of SAMRO. And remember, I stood up and said, we cannot put Dr. Luthuli on rotation. We need him. He has just joined in. So as we were still debating these very critical matters, the meeting unfortunately collapsed. And we must ask ourselves the question, why did we even allow it to collapse? Because if a meeting collapses, what happens? It means though the incumbent continues, right? That's what's going to happen. So we are part of actually prolonging the current leadership of SAMRO as it stands. We are part of it by the way we conduct ourselves. And it's about strategy. Yes, let's be angry. I've always called on members and say, you must revolt, you must be angry. I don't understand why you're not angry. But in our anger, let's still be able to think straight, strategically, to say, these people will continuously provoke us for meetings to collapse. But shoot then, man. So Baba shoot then. The question is that how are we going to react? Are we going to and collapse the next meeting? Are we going to react and collapse the next one? And then they are prolonged and prolonged, and then we are back to square one. So I'm going to say things that are unpopular that you probably don't want to hear, but it's a fact of the matter that we need to, when you watch that we are fighting one struggle, we have not even moved to other collecting societies, not one after SAMRO. Personal against SAMRO. No, we are dealing with SAMRO because it's the biggest elephant in the room. It's the oldest CFO. And for us to start to win the next battles, we need to start with this big one because of all of them have taken the modus operandi from this one.
Yes.
But let me remind you, let's not be personal. It doesn't matter who's a CEO right now, who was a CEO then. We've had the same problems, if not more, now. So we have to now be strategic. We cannot lose any battle in this war going forward. Let's use each and every opportunity to go to the next step so that we get closer to the finishing line. Let me pause for now. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And okay, our facilitator is not there. Okay, I'll direct you in the meantime. Kacha Ningena, I was eager to hear you. Welcome.
Thank you for that. Sorry, my light fell. So I think that when you don't remove bad apples, the whole stock gets burned. And I think that when we avoid holding people accountable, that is what's going to keep the things the way they are. I think that is scary to call out things, yes, but I think that if we want change, we actually have to put it the way it is. Abut Owen, good morning.
Good morning, Ms. Mazwai and the team. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Disruptor. Good morning, Marciane. Good morning, Lee and Gray. And yeah, it's a good morning. I wonder if you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
I'm sorry to have joined late. Yeah, let me start with the latter. The last time we were in this platform, it was myself and Disruptor, and we agreed on a post-perat, which I was open to. It hasn't happened. Maybe you'll tell me why. Now, the second point, my favorites, and I've got a right to have favorites, Ms. Mazwai, because I'm a human being, okay? You can call me biased or whatever. I'm just being realistic. As an individual, I've got my own favorites. And one in this order. One is Nomsa Mazwai, to be in that board. Number 2, Tebo Kostad, to be in that board. Number 3, Sepo Mashiane, to be in that board, but not in a corrupt manner. This is what I'm emphasizing and saying. I want these people, when they get in there, they are applauded and respected by everybody, because of nobody doubts what Tebo Kostatu does. Nobody can doubt what Mashiane can do. Nobody can doubt Nomsa Mashiane. They've shown what they can do. But we cannot allow a situation whereby we rectify the wrong with the wrong. Two wrongs will never ever make right. That is where I am, only there. Now, let me move forward and talk about the possibilities. Annabelle will be gone by the 26th of March, period. He is a rotten apple in there that keeps making sure that things are muddied in there. People are resigning except her. She's the only one that is staying there. Annabelle must go. She's the only rotten apple. She can take me to court and sue me many times. Actually, she started and already failed. I'm waiting for another lawsuit. I am not going to change in that. Let me tell you why I say that. Annabelle was fired on the 4th, was completed on the 18th. She turns around and now become the first one to fire Dan Kosi. She was fired by Dan Kosi. On the 26th, she must still answer in terms of what happened on the 4th, what happened on the 18th. And we need her to provide the minutes of those meetings in case she says she was not fired. She cannot fire Dan Kosi. For what? I'm not accepting that Dan Kosi is fired. In actual fact, AU is already writing to SAMRO to say, tell us what is happening with Dan Kosi. Because of, as far as you know, Dan Kosi is still in there. Annabelle was fired first. She should have been gone because of she admitted to have used the credit card that's wrong. So if somebody asks, I hear Disruptor saying Annabelle will be gone in 2 years. No, Annabelle will be gone in the next 7 days when we meet there at SAMRO. She is a rotten potato that keeps all the back rotting. Everybody else can be right if and all these people resigned, but she stayed. Let me tell you, Veronica resigned because of a book that was funded by Annabelle, but she ended up resigning. Where is Annabelle? Still in there. Now, Annabelle, where the chairperson, Nicholas Mawen, eventually resigned. Where is Annabelle? Is still there. Annabelle fires Mpo. She fires everybody that stands up against her. That's what she does. It's not the board. It's Annabelle that is driving that thing. So Annabelle must answer Ms. Mazwai on the 26th. What happened on the 4th when her name was called and she agreed that she had used the credit card wrongly and she apologized and she wanted to be given a lighter sentence? Yes, she did. Yes, she did. If she didn't do, why these people are not suing me? And I've been talking about their names calling me. If I'm wrong, why I'm not sued? Why I'm still sitting and my life is normal? Because of they know it's the truth. She must bring the minutes, Ms. Mazwai, on the 4th. She must bring the minutes of the 18th. Then this is the only thing that will prove what happened there. And remember, Dan will be part of that meeting. Because I'll let you tell you what, Ms. Mazwai. Dan is a member of SAMRO. He's got a right to be there as a member, not as a board member. So any other way, Dan will be there. And Dan will tell the truth. And the board, like Lutuli, will be there to testify what happened on the 4th and the 18th. So Annabelle must not think we are fools. We're going to now worry about Dan is fired. No. Annabelle was fired first on the 4th and the 18th. So I agree with Disruptor in terms of unity. I agree, totally agree with that we must be united. But what happens, we talk here on Miss Mazwai's show. When we go out of here, people do other things. We cannot. We are not even having a plan on how to approach the very 2026. Then we agreed, and Mama Shane was in one of the meeting together with Babustat, when we agreed that, guys, this MOI thing is being flattered so that it can benefit SAMRO, and it's one of the 6. What happened to the other 6 pointers? Nobody answered me there. Then they want us to follow their trend because of they've got a speed trap that we don't know. So I said, no, let's deal with all the 6 pointers that we agreed upon so that everybody can get a job. Number 4, Disruptor is talking about the struggle started long time ago. That struggle didn't fail, Disruptor. You guys and Mzwakembule and everybody else, together with Nelson Mandela, they did very well. But that was a struggle for a black person to be recognized and to get dignity and all that, political and otherwise. It was not economic. Now I'm fighting for money, my brother. And nobody has ever started the struggle. It's a new one. We can't be poor and be complaining, and we are in the industry and only few people are rich, and especially in the port. That I'm not going to tolerate. I don't care, judge me. I'm here for money. I'm not coming here to play around. It's sad to see artists dying as paupers when you told that they were making millions, but somebody's got those millions, but they don't have it. I can't allow that. So this corruption that is continuing in some report, benefiting them. I'm telling you, people like Lutuli in the port, they take over 100,000 by sitting in that port. They take over 100,000. I'm saying this because I know it's a fact. And the artists can hardly get 100,000 just to do their events or gigs or whatever. You can't. But the board members, they get as much as that. So I'm for unity, Disruptor. I'm still vouching for you. I'm still vouching for Tsepo. I'm vouching for Nomsa, but not in this manner that SAMRO wants us to do. I'm saying no. Thank you.
Yo, Siskaka, do you know that I mentioned this last time? I got confronted by the lady who got money from Annabelle, and she doesn't understand why that was problematic. She just doesn't understand. And I think that's deep. So it tells me that we have had a leader sitting with the cookie jar who goes, okay, you can have with artist money, guys. I also want to know all these Christmas. She's like Mother Christmas.
Christmas.
Mama, and SAMRO lied actually to say that she resigned. She never resigned. We put so much pressure because she was not supposed to be even there. And I want to make you understand why she was there. You know, she was there because of the MOI. Look at how independent board members are brought in. According to the current MOI, you vote in directors, then amongst them, they go out and even source for other directors that you don't know, that have never sat with you in meetings, and even the chairperson comes from there. People are just brought in because it's an undemocratic, unjust MOI. And this is why I keep on emphasizing, up until you deal with this MOI, you are just going to be running around in seconds. It's so important. Yes, Gajeni, Siabuzo. And Dr. Vilagazi must just stay where she is nabanye asabafuni. But here's the thing: when Mzigi and Gajeni was saying this Mzabalazo umusha no. I'm talking about the same Mzabalazo where SAMRO of transforming SAMRO. It comes a long way. It's the same. It's not. It hasn't changed. It's the same. We've been wanting to change how SAMRO operates and distributes royalties and how we get back our power. And let me mention this. You were taken aback, I could see, and Ukateni said it's another. This is a topic for another day's discussion. You remember when we ended off last week? I said. Somebody said, you said, we own SAMRO. SAMRO belongs to members. And I said, no, it doesn't. And I know a lot of people, I received a number of calls saying, but what are you saying? I'm still saying it. SAMRO does not belong to members. It's a reality. Please, let it sink. Wait, let it sink. It doesn't belong to it's supposed to, but it's supposed to. So there's a difference between fallacy and reality. In reality, it doesn't. In a fallacy, in a dream world, it's supposed to, because so it goes back to where? To the fact that we are not in control as composers, as musicians, as composers, authors, and publishers, young publishers in particular. The SAMRO is a market share. It's a market share company. This is why SAMRO receives millions of rents, but the millions are distributed among a few multinational big publishers. And that's what I'm talking about. I'm not saying, please hear me, I'm not saying that SAMRO is supposed to be belonging to members by right. And I think when I came in, we were talking about that very important thing, that it's not a private company. Up until people realize that this is not a private company, we're not going to get anywhere. They come with the mindset of this is a private entity, how they do things. You are right. And what you said in terms of how SAMRO has been operating for all these years and continues to operate actually supports my statement. But you will be confused if you don't understand, because you are living in a dream world thinking that we own SAMRO. Let's change the MOI so that we can take back SAMRO, take back our power. Our power lies in that document. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
And at the minute you ignore that document and you continue to ignore it and you focus on personalities that irritate the hell out of you, you are going to lose focus. You are going to lose focus. Okay. And probably that's what they want you to do, to focus on them instead of the document. Thank you for now. Let me pause.
Mamia, can I just come in, because I think there's a lot of things that have been said. I just want to make this point, on issues of corruption, Mashiane, I think we'll meet in court. I'm really clear about it. No one is going to drag my name in things I don't know without any evidence. So we'll meet in court, produce evidence, I'll produce mine. And because I'm being defamed here and it continues. I thought it was just we'll meet, wait. Can I finish speaking?
No,
can I finish speaking?
Tell us what's going on.
We'll allow him to speak. We'll provide evidence. We will provide evidence of what the facts are. And I think that's the only place that I want to go on this machine and corruption. Because I can't be sitting here and listening to nonsensical things being said about me. And it's not the first time, by the way. And it should end here. And it will end in the courts. So I've taken that decision.
Ms. Mazwai, once people talk a language of nonsensical, the language is foul language, and I'm going to leave if this continues. I don't mind him talking, he must not talk nonsense.
No, don't leave. Nobody's speaking.
Nonsensical is an English word. Can I just finish speaking, Mama Zwa? I never disturb anyone. Can I just finish speaking? And if somebody does not understand English, then it can't be our problem. Nonsensical is a antonym for sensical. So I don't think that we are here to teach each other English. But having said that, I just wanted to make that point and make it very clear that I've captured everything about corruption that has been spoken about and will test that in the courts. In fact, I'm making it clear here because even earlier I said it in terms of the process. I've got the facts and somebody must produce the other facts. We'll see each other in court on that matter. On the issues related, Mamia, on the invite you sent to me, I get a sense that the issue of continuous engagement around the issue of SAMRO and who does it belong to and so forth becomes very crucial at this point. My understanding, and I think it might also be challenged by Debza, which I must say I don't agree with him that it does not belong to members. Yes, people steal a government in any country there's still a government, and the government, when it's stolen, there's a view that it does not belong to the people, but the government belongs to the people, whichever way you look at it. So you can't move with the view that it does not belong to the people. So SAMRO belongs to its members. In fact, let me say the following. Even in their own website, under our story, they say, since 1961, SAMRO has been South Africa's music rights champion. We protect the rights of composers and authors. In the main, in fact, there's no even mention of publishers. Now, if these people have chosen to mention this, and by the way, these people I'm talking about, us, the members, that our role is to do exactly that, to protect our rights as composers and authors. So if there's an argument about whether or not we are members and shareholders, and somebody brings a view that, yeah, at this point we are not, it's fine. Tebza, you're talking about the issue of it is a share market. Look, if it is a share market, it must go and register with JSE. We are an NPC. We are an NPC. And if we are an NPC, it means that we need to operate within the confines of that law. I don't think that we need to be able to despair and become very disgruntled about the fact that people are stealing SAMRO. We can't. We just need to maintain our order. The order here is that SAMRO belongs to its members. When there are thieves, cartels that are dealt with, it does not mean that the country belongs to them. So I want us to make that very clear. Because if we lose the fact that it does not belong to us, then the question is, why are we so involved in SAMRO? Why? Why do you want to be so involved? Because even the share market you're talking about, those monies belong to members that are making it to the share market. They belong to members. So all I'm saying is that we need to be able to remain consistent within the law. All other things that are happening will be directed by the law. And I want to say the following, Mami. NgesiZulu, angisazi Sotho neSetswana, maybe Afrikaans, and even English. Mara ngeZulu bathi icala aliboli. Yabo. Icala aliboli. So you can do what you do now and do it the best you can, but there will be a time where lelo cala kuzomele ukuthi ulile. And by that time, there won't be any other reasoning, because the reasoning is exactly what you are doing. We are capturing what you are doing. We always engage you. You tell us this, this, and that. The point I want to agree with you on, Debs, is the following. No matter how we believe and how we feel about the state of affairs within SAMRO, the reality of the situation is that we've got only one convergent point on how we can win these things, and that is the law. You and me must differ, Tebza. We must continue to differ. But the fact that we've got laws in this country is not cosmetic. Not because we like to have laws. It's because the laws must find convergence where there is a disagreement. And we allow people who are trained to do so to give us that particular convergence. So we're not going to be sitting here and making noise about things that we know very well have got to be tested legally. And up until that time that we do so, we can make any noise. And you are correct. I mean, there are people who believe that they've got a superpower of deciding the journey that must be traveled or traversed around some. And it can be correct. Who are there for different reasons. Others are there for money. Others are there for other things. We are there, some of us, to ensure that there is generations who can benefit out of this institution. We were not there for the same thing. And we must acknowledge and accept that. And people who want money must tell us how they are going to do that. See, now we're saying we want to be able to change this particular board because as it stands, it's unlawful. In line with the MOI, not because SEPO does not like whom and stuff like that. We must be able to apply the law. And if the law is on our side, then we know that we are treading on a correct line. And people know, by the way, Mamiya, people know very well when they break the law. They know it. Is not like they don't know. They'll be surprised, who am I breaking the law? No, they know. So when you do things intentionally and you believe that it is because you've got authority and power, that time will come and it will go and you'll be subjected to reason. Because when these things happen, people don't reason. People don't show integrity. People don't show credibility for anything. But to continue to fight things that are obviously supposed to be fought on the battlefield using the legal prescripts of this law. So all I'm going to say, having invited me here, just to close on my part, Mamiya, that is if I'll have an opportunity. One, there's no argument that SAMRO is an NPC unless it is registered otherwise. Then we can engage differently. Number two, there's no argument that the MOI of SAMRO requires to be reviewed and amended such that it reflects the realities of the people to whom it is established. Number three, there's no reason why SAMRO does not distribute monies in a manner that it's supposed to by stopping this whole nonsense of what do you call it, Tebza?
I talk about that.
Undocumented works. It's the same thing that happens there at the National Arts Council. There they call it surplus funding, right? So these things happen because you're dealing with a very, very corrupt and rotten system that allows people to actually mingle in the rot. And we don't want to reason with them. We want to fight with them, knowing very well that in fact, they know what they are doing. You are correct, Ebza. You can't go into a battlefield thinking that on the other side, people will get there, it's a party. They will destroy you before you even think that you've got something to offer. So let's be able to think about those things. Those three things for me are key. At the center of all of them, it's about governance. It's about governance. Right? So let's
Can the other speakers turn off their mics, please? Can the other speakers turn off their mics?
Yeah, just as I close, Mami, let's differ then in terms of the approach. Let's differ. But let's not go out there and ridicule and disrespect each other. Let's differ on the basis that I'm saying I want to follow the prescripts of the law. I want to use the law because it's there. Do what you do. But you can't come tomorrow and say, there, but why are you using the law and all this sort of thing? You can't do that. And you don't have authority, by the way, to do that. Because no one is actually, you're self-imposing an authority you don't have. So let's do that. Let's respect each other. No one has got the right to disrespect somebody else because they feel they know better. No. Let's engage, let's disengage, let's re-engage and find each other. Otherwise, outside of that, we'll meet in court and we'll test this law. Thank you, Mamiya. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Kacheni wena ushaya yonke podcast last week. Khulume thina namhlanje.
No, Tebza, let me tell you why. Babu Mashiane mentioned my name, and I just want to clarify one thing. If you allow me. If you allow me.
Let's avoid dialogue.
Mamiya, I never mentioned anyone's name. I never mentioned anyone's name. And if people, if I never mentioned anyone's name. If the shoe is, please wear it. If the shoe is wearing, I never mentioned anyone's name. I don't go around mentioning people's names without their authority. I don't operate that way.
No.